My dad was born in Mankato, Minnesota in 1897. Remembered that there were Lebanese people in Buffalo, New York. So he worked his way to Buffalo, New York and lived with this Lebanese lady. She took care of him. And then when he was probably, I would say around 15 years old, he remembered there were people in Peoria, Illinois from the town of Itu, where they're originally from. And he worked his way down to Peoria so he could be with the people from the town where he was from originally. And that's how he came to Peoria, Illinois. They were all migrants. They either worked on the railroad or they worked down at the Peoria Cordage Company, which made rope and twine. My dad went to work down there, and my mom was working down there. My mom came over. She was born in Itu, but she came over on a boat with, and then he branched off on his own and got his own store. I think they felt like East Peoria was up and coming. Caterpillar had just bought Holt Manufacturing Company, and Caterpillar was in East Peoria, and they were hiring people. 3 shifts. And so our store opened at 6 o'clock in the morning and closed at midnight every day, even on Sunday. Okay. They had the store open. All of us kids lived there. I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. The 3 boys, 2 boys were born in Peoria, and my sister was born in Peoria because they lived in the south end of Peoria. All of the Lebanese congregated in the south end of Peoria. They all helped one another. They did. Picked up coal from railroad tracks to keep their houses warm, anything to survive. And then they eventually saved enough money somehow to go into business for themselves. They're very hard workers, and my mom and dad moved to East Peoria, and then my brother, Jug, is his nickname, Charles Jr., and myself was born in the grocery store. The Lebanese people in Peoria are very prominent. Started businesses. They've all been successful. They've entered into politics. Financially secure now. They worked and saved money and sent the money back to Lebanon to bring their relatives over here. And there was work here, and they all congregated in the south end of Peoria. They all had their own, they lived by one another, or they lived with one another. It was not unusual for 2 or 3 families to be in one house helping one another because they couldn't afford anything. They couldn't speak the language or anything. And it's just like the migrant workers today. When you look at them and I see them, I think that's how my ancestors were. You know, when you see all these migrant workers and they're working in the fields or they're doing odd jobs or they'll do anything, the one thing they taught us, be faithful to your religion and to work hard and to be honest. It's just instilled in probably 99%. I'm not going to say 100% because there's always America, go to America. They came to America on a shoestring. My mom told me that her dad was already over here working on the railroad, and he sent money back for them to come over. And her mom, my grandmother, and my mom and her 2 sisters, 3 of them, came over on the cheapest fare on the boat possible. And it was in the very bottom of the boat, and Mom told me the story that there was a hurricane when they were crossing. It was a wooden boat, and she said the boat laid on its side for 3 days. And she said all they did was pray. They were so afraid. And my mom was so afraid of water, swimming or anything. She couldn't swim, but she made sure all of us learned how to swim because she said that was the worst feeling in the world to think that boat was going to sink. But they made it, And when they came over into Ellis Island, how we got the last name of Anthony was our real name is an Arabic name. And so when they come in and they tell them at Ellis Island what their name is, nobody could spell it. They couldn't speak English or anything, and they just give them an American name. And that's how they get first names for last names. I mean, our last name is Anthony. A lot of them is Joseph. A lot of them is Thomas, you know. But when they come in Ellis Island, they just give them these names. Shidyet El Sus was my dad's last name. And the first part of that, the Shidyet, the part of the Sus family that he is from. And the one thing that sticks with me is he told me, he said, don't you ever eat in front of somebody that you don't offer them what you have to eat, even if that's all you have, because that's the worst thing in the world. And I think people ate in front of him and he didn't have money to buy food, is what I think, because he told me that he ate frozen apples from a garbage can. We always had enough to eat. In fact, I always thought we were pretty wealthy, but we weren't. But we had enough to eat. We had nice clothes. And my dad couldn't, this is interesting, my dad couldn't read or write English. He became active in the city of East Peoria. He was a councilman for 16 years, was on the park board for 20 years, and he ran for mayor once, but he did not make that. He lost by a very slim margin. But he was well respected, and racism, especially in East Peoria, at the time when I was a little girl, the Ku Klux Klan was prominent. And the Klan walked down the street and burned a cross in front of our house to frighten us, to scare us. My dad was running for political office or something. But we stayed, and my mom and dad taught us not to be prejudiced against anybody, because people were prejudiced against us. And I think about that a lot, and I remember that time because it scared me. And Mom took us in the farthest room in the house, and we knelt down. She says, let's kneel down and pray, you know, so that's what we did. And, you know, but they walked away. The Klan is not, we would go up to the swimming pool or something, and we'd get real dark because our skin tanned real easy, you know. Mom would say, don't sit out in the sun anymore, because people would make fun of us. It hurt a lot. Believe me, it hurt. And the Lebanese just did menial jobs. Today, and the Lebanese are doctors, lawyers, businessmen, political people in politics, have political offices, like Ray LaHood, who was Obama's cabinet. His grandfather came from I-2. His son, Darren, is a congressman. Lebanese became leaders. It's unbelievable when you stop and think about it in Peoria. They help people. My mom and dad, during the Depression, people would come in, didn't have groceries. They gave them groceries, and they never did ever pay them, and how good they were, you know. But they always gave back. You know, we have the I-2 Club. They formed a club, and when you go to the I-2 Hall and you see it, there's a picture there of the original men that started the I-2 Club. And it was founded so that they would put on dinners or whatever and make money and send it back to the people in Lebanon, or help the people here that were here that wasn't making enough money, or whatever. And in that picture is my dad, and my dad was the youngest person in that picture. But when we grew up in our house, I can't believe that all of us lived in that house. There were 5 of us kids. We lived behind this grocery store, little bitty rooms, and Mom had a couch that opened up into a bed, and they gave a cousin and my uncle, they gave those 2 jobs in the grocery store, and they lived with us. Mom would open up that couch and they'd sleep there, and there were I had 3 brothers and then me and my sister in this little bitty house. I slept between 2 boys. I mean, that's the way we grew up. I mean, people probably thought, oh my God, look at those people, but that's how we survived.